هنرجع او هنروح لاستاذ مجدي البانكينج سيكتور. استاذ مجدي دكروري، طبعا من كل اللي حضرتك سمعته افتكر اكيد عندك تعليق. انا بس عندي سؤال.
Is there a mechanism for have a quick intervention for finance for the bank system? The bank system says that we have conflicts and we go to the bank sector and they do not assist us. Is there a mechanism that they do not take a very long time to finance such companies? This is the question to be posed. Good afternoon. I'm going to be very quick because we have to conclude, and everything has been said previously in the sessions, but I'm going to refer to very simple points because everything has been said already. And I do not want to comment, but I'm going to refer to a point that was being mentioned by you. Generally speaking, particularly when we're speaking, when Dr. Abla is here, to have cooperation between different sectors, this is very important. All should grow together. It is not possible that we should not have a cement industry without building. What we have listened to today from development in legislations and having financial systems in factoring, we have to be very optimistic. The initiative of the Central Bank of Egypt is very good, and this is what we feel clearly. There is increase in finance due to this initiative. It is divided into 3 initiatives: one for the small, for the medium, and for the long or big. Small is 5%, and there are 2 types of medium finance, which is 7% for the medium projects and 12% for the big ones. These are the main symptoms of this initiative. I don't claim that, yes, there is a great development in finance and there are a lot of factories that operated and in pipeline. We have a lot of projects and different industries that includes good technology. In default, we have specific problems that we know, so I'm not going to speak about it. It's a management. This is the main that leads to this default or any change in the rate of exchange or in the prices. Yes, it happens. But whatever problems outside of management, I see that it should be solved. But if the problem is in administration, it's very difficult to solve it. What am I going to solve? How am I going to give finance? I'm going to give money for a person who cannot manage? No. These initiatives have solved general problems, like what has been mentioned, to postpone the repayment. This is a problem, 5% for all people. But when we solve the problem of a company or for a sector, we need other ideas. We need to think that we should be in the capital market, maybe the banking sector, and coincidentally they are the financial system. They give general solution, and through the initiative Central Bank of Egypt, this was a very strong initiative that influenced the economy. The solutions we should develop the technology of the company. As Mr. Elhamy said, we should be linked with the bus that has been manufactured 3 years ago. Lot of solutions, and this is what we saw in Biscumas. When they started the company, they saw a good line of production, but no good management. So they controlled the management, and the problem was solved. You have asked if there is a client that has problems and has a transaction to be finished. The banks are always doing this. Any clear transaction that has a beginning and an end, which should be financed, but they should control the duration. The duration, if it is 1 year, 6 months. Another point we're thinking that we have two other matters. There is the guarantee of the credit risk that will assist greatly and will assist the SMEs, and these are projects that are guaranteed by the Central Bank of Egypt. It will have great impact on the banks and on the market. It is very important. At the same time, the I-score is one of the things of the register. They will register all SME projects, and they are providing data concerning them. And it is a commitment on any bank to finance any SME has to have the data and register it, including the budget that people do not register, real financial statements. So the client has to register this at the bank and to impose this financial inclusion. It is for the interest of the client. If he does not respond to this information, it's not going to work. He has an opportunity today. I'm not going to ask him for something that cannot be implemented. And the great example of Mr. Hani, yes, the whole environment should allow this. I don't want to be lengthy. I have a question concerning the credit risk guarantee. They want to guarantee loans. Is this paid by the client or by the bank?
The new document, the bank will pay. It's included in the 5%, and the bank will do that. No, I'm speaking about the SMEs. And there must, of course, be a clean record. They don't have any suitcases because this is a collateral or a guarantee. But so it's not possible that I will give collateral or guarantee to a defaulting person without any background. I mean, we have to, if the collateral is covering 90% of the debt, of course there are certain conditions that are available in the document or in, and the cost gets, is included in the 5% because this document alleviates the risk, So in order to conclude this session,
we heard about the experience of Bisco Master and we listened to the opinion of Mr. Magdy. I see that we have to enhance and enlarge the access to finance for the non-banking financial decision. Banking sector performed its duty, but yes, Egypt has a problem that has to be covered. We have to increase the venture capital funds. These for SMEs should be increased. We have to have more funds, more than 150 million. This is not enough for the distressed factories. In general, the equity swap or Egypt company is doing this, and the banking sector has to resort to the system in dealing with the client. As to this is existing, it can happen. But textile sector, yes, you should give them more importance. And laborers are a problem itself. If the company is not subject or is not within the umbrella of this, the rate of interest will be increased. But we see that the inflation is going down. I'm not going to speak about economy while Dr. Abla is with us, but the prices are reducing, and we hope that it will be more reduced during the coming period. You're speaking about short-term operations, 3-4 months, and the interest rate will not be very high, but I'm not denying this. Any question?
Thanks a lot. Of course, I extend my thanks to the ECS and Dr. Abda Chief, and I really salute her and thank her so much, because her academic also experience and the executive's experience of hers is real enrichment to this center. What she said today and what we have been learning today is a living example about it. I'm not very specialized in this part, but actually I really got a lot of information. I benefited a lot. One comment, or actually two comments. One is non-financing related, but in general, when we look into the SMEs, we have to look with a more inclusive outlook besides financing. I know financing is important, but in all the studies done before or conducted before, shows that there are a lot of impediments. First of all is the feasibility studies, that sometimes we got surprised in the 70s that all Egypt started to have SMEs for chicken and eggs, and so a certain fashion just comes in, and without any feasibility studies, they start to work. That's this is not considering also the skills of the laborers and all that, and training. If we come to finance, we have a certain equation with two parties, the financing entities and the beneficiaries. Well, actually, I have a sort of being, that there is no communication, or there is some detachment between two parties. What will have been said in this morning about the non-banking financing mechanism, I heard a lot of discussions which were very good, and proposals that were very good, excellent, about modern mechanisms. I heard also the legal adjustments, and that's very promising, but then I feel this is a positive pink really framework and picture. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I also listen to the beneficiaries, that's regardless of tourism and beneficiaries from tourism. So even for startups or defaulters, I feel that the scene is a bit different, or at one side of the spectrum it's very positive, at the other side of the spectrum it's very gloomy, which means that there is something missing in the chain. I don't mean to be negative, but we need solutions. Well, I doubt that maybe a lot of people don't know about the collaterals of the exports. Dr. Ala said a lot of very important things, but at a certain time we used to work in Africa, and we tried to introduce companies to export there, but they were in another world. We are, if you go to Africa and see what is Morocco doing, what is China doing, and how they are supported by their countries to unlimited extent, to the extent that they invaded Africa at the time where we turned our back from Africa. What I want to say, again, is the spectrum of the beneficiaries. I doubt that they do know about all the mechanisms that you are discussing. discussing. I also have doubts that they might not be aware at all of the new legislation. My question is, not to you in particular, but my question, and it's important, who will be the mediator? Who will play the role between the financing, banking or non-banking entities and the beneficiaries? Is it a certain agency? Is it a certain authority? We've been, saying a lot of time that the SMEs, they don't have a godfather in this country. So who is going to make this, who is going to be in the middle to bring or close this gap between the two parties of the spectrum? The question again, yes, I want to be positive, but my question once more, all the mechanisms, the excellent mechanisms and the initiatives, how are they going to be channeled for beneficiaries who might not really know about them, and they give us, it's very gloomy to them. It's very gloomy at the other end of the spectrum. We have to think about how all of these channels can be brought forward to the other parties, the beneficiaries. 50% of the economy is said to be informal, I think more than that. And the laborers, which are informal, or the workers in the informal sector, you are maybe more aware that it's very wide. At the very end, it's really serious. It's really serious. So if we are not going to channel it in a good way, then all what we said is just, excluded or just included in an initiative that makes new legislations and new initiatives. But then what's next? I think we have to work on that. A comment on Her Excellency the Minister. Of course, for Egypt Export Company, it's working. It guarantees the Egyptian exports or give collaterals to experts or Egyptian experts. But as to the export sector, as I mentioned, it might not be very wide-ranged, but of course there are risks that are covered inside Egypt or outside Egypt. I'm sorry, I can't hear the speakers who are not using the mic. The company do this as a private sector, so anyone can make a company or can find a company for guaranteeing export. The process is easy, capital is there, piece of cake. So the more important company, there are also, I want to tell you that there are some private companies who have these guarantees for exports. What is more important is the support of the state, because this company once founded was founded based on the support of the state, which will be backing the Egyptian export through this company. Example, say, like I said, that the medium-range projects or experts in high-risk countries like Africa. And you said that Morocco is supported by the state. What does it mean, support by the state? If I'm working in a private sector, I'm gonna see and look into the cost-benefit analysis. That's Nigeria, for example. I will see the insurance timing, how much is it gonna charge me, and therefore I will give an uncompetitive pricing for those who are going to export to Africa. So other countries, on the other hand, which are serious to get into Africa, come and support this kind of activity, meaning that the state comes with the company of guaranteeing export, as an insurer, instead of going to Gohary in France or other international countries that I would ask to secure or pay or make insurance for Nigeria, I'll have to address the exporter. But unfortunately, the state gives a minimal support or maybe no support. That is the real objective of the company, or for any company in the world for exports, is that the state has certain objectives, because businessmen won't go to Africa unless there is 100% support, and as for a joint venture, they need profit. So they're gonna look after what ways will lead me to even a minimum profit margin. So the state has to come in with full effect. This is very important role, and a lot of people really know that it's very important. I have a question to Ms. Ghada as to what is the percentage, or what are the percentage of the SMEs, like what percentage is defaulting in the list that we have in our export company. Second point, I think that what we are saying is beautiful, but as to SMEs market, I think this is so much detached from the beneficiaries, or far away from the beneficiaries. I was responsible about or for training in the year 2000 of the SMEs. I think that we are running out of time. Okay, I'll say quickly. The beneficiary girl was, is going to be jailed, or was really in trouble, because she had a plastic project in a time where everybody was having plastic projects. It's not only finance, like Dr. Nagla said. We do need to have a system so that when there is a saturation or market saturation, we shouldn't go into dumping. So people with the projects should have indicators to go elsewhere. And this is a question for me. As to restrictions, there are no restrictions. There is no restrictions concerning the number of defaulters. There are some people working in there, but the CBA did not announce the default rate. 2014 was our last date, but there's no entity in Egypt that is restricted. Maybe the Center of Industry made some lists with numbers, but that's not the real numbers. There are a lot more than that. As to what you mentioned, and to Her Excellency's speech, is that of course, this is of course, and I said this in a presentation, it's not only injecting money or pumping money. There must be restructuring, there must be procedures, there must be development in the management and in the product, so that we save the company another default problem or a distressed economy. That's why the new product is not only pumping money, it's injecting money, pumping money, and restructuring, in addition to the services, around 300 services, HR service, problem with marketing service, problem of software services, etc. Feasibility, there is feasibility service and studies. So if you have a glance at the last report, you're going to find what is the problem, what is the status, the current status, and what is to be done next. But the real problem, and I repeat, is the fund is small. It needs to be scaled up so that it would serve more and more of the beneficiaries. This is an intervention for Dr. Nagla Elhamy, and for the amazing role in a very restricted time framework. I know that the minister is the head of, CAPMIS. I'm the counselor, and that's why the proposal or the draft of the law is presented in this framework. That's what I want to say. Please have the mic. As a non-bank financial institution, we try to help our defaulting clients, and we went to the tourism sector. We've got a lot of companies that were medium size, not small size, and we found them financially capable, and we tried to help them with transportation as a real estate lease. I make finance through 2 channels. I know that the central bank did an excellent initiative, but in application there is a certain side that is sort of needs some light. We have to shop. We had to shop around about many banks, and what they said is that we are not gonna finance tourism sector until we reached the banks of the general or the public sector banks. There's another part that I have to finance from my own capital because I see prospects of this. So I think we need more flexibility from some banks, and I'm not going to say all the banks, to have widen our horizon and perspective. And if a bank agrees to finance, they raise the price sky high. So I had to get down with the pricing and to lessen my profit of margin to make it plausible for the client, and that was a problem. We also, through the factoring company, tried to, but the problem with the factoring company is when I started to finance medium prices, and the client was really not defaulting at all. He was excellent. Certain or some banks, they come and tell us, we don't understand factoring. What's your role? And they ask us, so the cycle took us around. So instead of closing the transaction in a very good time or short time, it was very much a time, not time saving, because there's the burden to explain to the bank, and we had to go to the financial authority to ask them for support to make them pass the knowledge about factoring to the banks, so that the banks would be understanding what's going on. I have comments and a question. Of course, finance is one of the problems, and in Egypt, this is the main problem. We think it's the main problem. Actually, it's not. Because if every other thing is good, then finance will come, automatically. But our subject is to concentrate on that. You said that the informal sector is more than 50%. I think the informal center should be the origin or the principal one, and the other formal sector is the intruder here. As to Mr. Hisham from the Ministry of Industry, yes, there is an authority or agencies, but they coordinate inside the Ministry of Industry, but they do not solve the SMEs, meaning that, yes, they had some activities, put them in one place, but they're still doing the same thing. Let's put that aside. What is really requested, and I hope this will improve, that was the main suggestion from Presidential Council, is that there should be a coordinating council under the auspices of the Prime Minister, and they should have nothing to do with implementation. They only have to do with coordination. But if they are not giving any policies, their own work is to go and make streamlining with the Minister of Finance, to go to the bank to bridge any gaps. This is his role, but that's not existing anymore. So that makes a loss, of course. This coordinating committee or system should have an organization, and everyone working should be representing other ministers, because that's all what they have to do. That's their own job description, and that is what we request. So this is what we have to do about. And of course, this is left to banks, whether they are default or no default, because without mentioning names of banks, some people are trying to have a loan from X bank, and 6 months he didn't get any. So he speaks to one in the board of directors or whatever. So the story would end by the fact that he will take the loan anyhow, 5% or whatever other way. And there is no accountability, specifically if we are putting the public banks. You also spoke about the number or statistics of defaulters. Of course, we can't have the number, because the only entity that made this count was was a certain entity of industrial agency, but they didn't put the answers. So this updating or modern industry center, they did nothing. So the defaulters sort of retreat. So that's very difficult to have a count of the defaulting companies. But now, as there are serious funds, I think that we'll be able to have the count. My question to Ms. Bahia, you spoke about an excellent model. It's music to my ears. But should you have sold to colleagues if you had upgraded, and if you had really managed the system? Why didn't you wait? Why did you sell it, as a whole, in complete package? We had to sell it to colleagues because, as I said, the direct investment takes place through investment funds, and these investment funds as institutions, they gave us money to invest and to bring them back with the interest. They have a certain time span, so I have to get out of the investments at the time where I will be able to enhance the margin and sell it. This is the direct investment, and it's the same time for the venture capital. If they achieve the profitability, then they go out after that. I don't want them to go on, but why doesn't the company gets back to again, and part of or a quota of its profitability come back to you? Answer: there is a lot of ways to for the exit. It might be one of the ways might be sold to another Egyptian investment or being sold in the stock market. But on the contrary, this showed that we succeeded, that we were able to bring an investor, and that happened in 2015, which considered like a victory after a long period of instability. So that was the first factory. An Egyptian company was transferred to be bought by a foreigner or foreign investor. We had presentations for 22 investors, and that was not an easy job. So it makes us happy. On the contrary, Egyptian companies are being upgraded, but the product still is in Egypt, Bisco Misr, and it is improving and improving. I have two questions, Mr. Magdy. Time frame, this is a challenge. I also have problems in the bank, and some reasons are the mechanisms inside the bank, because every and each bank try to expedite their mechanism. The other problem is that finance, it's always thought that finance is the only way of improvement. But Mr. Tawfiq, when he was speaking about the request of the client, sometimes the request is not mature. They don't know anything except that they need the money. Whereas the study says something else. So a lot of there's a lot of misunderstanding between us and the customers. Sometimes this is a challenge, and the banking sector is doing its best to get over that using different mechanisms. And there are projects for the iScore that help in risk rating. iScore would expedite a simpler rating or scoring. Yes, challenges we have, and we're trying to get over them. We also try to put priorities. Is it the value? Is it the profitability? So this is very exhausting. If you come and let me know this person is important, we try to deal with that. And most of the people, they go to banks. So we really try to handle this. You also spoke about factoring. Problem with factoring is that the client needs factoring, or that the factoring needs finance. No, I mean the factoring needs finance. This is no problem. All banks finance factoring. So there is no problem with that. I'm gonna end this count even with the Center of Modernizing Industry started doing this count. It doesn't mean it put all the numbers. The 870 that were presented at the very first stage, we discovered a lot of them are public sectors, a lot of them have legal problems. So at the end it was 74. We lagged at a point where we can find a real mechanism for communication. So a lot of people really did not believe that the state is finally doing something. But since 2013, since the advertisement until we have the company, all this, as you know, had a lot of attempts which were very difficult to attain approval. So the strategy was there, and the approvals took time. Access to finance is contrary to some ideas. Access to finance, I know that management, product itself, the market, all these factors are very important. But access to finance, at the very end, if we don't have it, then we are in a real crisis. If it's not there because of management issues, yes. Because even if there is some sovereign decisions around customers, taxes, and all this, if this was the case that led to default or distress, it's supposed that the companies at least should have crisis management mechanism. If that is not there, of course, it's a deep effect. I think that the subject is very important. One day is not enough for all this. There are a lot of the instruments, credit risks, and everything need each single topic needs 3 days alone. I do extend my thanks to ECS and all the team and Dr. Abla and every other esteemed guest, because this event is really very important, and access to finance will be assisted by these kinds of events, because it creates awareness business. Now clients know a lot about leasing, factoring, insurance, and all this is very, very important. Maybe if we expand the scale with more numbers, then this will be good for better and like I think someone said it should be held in the stadium. More and more people will know. In addition, each and every instrument, as I said, need a separate day for discussion. So I thank, of course, Dr. Abdullah and all the team. I thank also, yes, and I hope that we really extend outside Egypt. I also want to thank the coordinators, Mr. Sharif Sami, Ms. Ghada, Mr. Ala Saba, and Mr. Elhamy Zayat, of course, friend of the center. We are going to conduct something concerning tourism. You're all invited. Mr. Magdy, representative of the spinning and weaving, bank representative, Ms. Bahia, and I thank also the ECS, my family, and I want everyone working in ECS, please stand up. Thank you all, because without you there are no seminars, there are no productions, starting with Miss Magda, Til Walid and Amr, who really